The new leader pass has had quite a rocky start, in my opinion. And when I say rocky, I am truly underselling it because there has been numerous bugs, problems with leader portrayals, and fans outraged over the fact that Firaxis is not doing a console port in the near future for the new leader pass, which has pissed a lot of people off, understandably. Which is why I am just so relieved to say that from my experience and having played 10 plus hours with the new leaders, all of them individually, that there is a lot more, I think, in terms of the leader abilities being fleshed out, them having far better models and animations than what we initially had with the Great Negotiators. And it's just not even a good comparison when you compare the two. By far, one of my favorite leaders in this pack is Tokugawa. He adds a lot of flair and flavor to Japan with his unique trade routes abilities, and I love that he is also able to be very, very powerful. His trade routes are bonkers. They are completely broken. I've seen several other Civ YouTubers saying the same, and I do concur. If you can set him up, it takes a little bit of setup to get those traders up and setting up those individual commercial hubs. That takes some legwork, but once you get that set up, once you raise that trade route capacity, it is phenomenal in terms of the gold, culture, and science you can generate. Nader Shah and Suleiman were also fun to play as. I think Nader Shah has a bit of legwork to do in terms of getting a more polished finished result. I think his trade routes can be underwhelming. And then Suleiman's persona is fun to play with. He has a very on and off relationship with founding cities and then going on the offensive depending on the golden age or dark age that you have. It is great to play, and just all of the leaders in general are so much more refreshing. If you just clicked on this video to see whether or not the new commanders were a flop or not, no, I think they are pretty good and fun to play, but I'm going to have to stop you right there because you are already balls deep in a 4 extraordinaire video, and I do have a few more insights to offer on the great commanders if you are willing to stick around. The first ability I kind of want to break down is Bakuhan, and that is Tokugawa's ability. International trade routes receive minus 25% yields and tourism, but domestic trade routes gain +1 culture, +1 science, and +2 gold for every specialty district at the destination. This is very, very important because you are no longer bound to having like theater squares or campuses. It's just any district you have down, which is great. This counts for holy sites, campuses, theater squares. So if you need to get culture, you can get it very, very easily, as I did so on my stream. It is fantastic if you are going for a science victory, but you still need to stay relevant in terms of civics and whatnot. The second part of the ability is not as impactful. Cities within 6 tiles of Japan's capital are 100% loyal, and after researching flight, gain +1 tourism for every specialty district. Honestly, I like the non-Rise and Fall edition or the base game vanilla version, which is you get +4 amenities instead of +100% loyalty, which I think is far more thematic and has a lot more uses. Amenities in general just are better than flat out loyalty, and since you're already within 6 tiles of the capital, that +100% loyalty is not going to be as useful or relevant. The +1 tourism is nice, but you're kind of just hacking that on to an already powerful bonus. The really important part of this ability is the very first part where you are flat out buffing trade routes and not encouraging you to trade with other people. You are flat out isolationist, which is ironic because this is the Great Commanders pack after all. To put the cherry on top, the irony here is that for being a great commander and being decked out in samurai armor, his unique leader agenda, Sakoku, makes him want to avoid conquerors, and he does not like people that conquer other capitals. So if you are a conqueror, he is not going to cozy up to you, and it just further incentivizes his turtling playstyle, and he is excellent for that. If you manage to bump up your trade limit via commercial hubs or harbors, or you get a very good coastal start in particular with rivers, then you have an excellent way to get a turtle civ, in my opinion. I think Japan is, with Tokugawa, one of the better turtle civs, and those trade routes are the lifeblood, and I mean lifeblood, to a good turtle Japan strategy. If you pair this on top of Magnus early game, then with the surplus logistics bonus, the +20% growth to food, you are getting your cities up very, very fast. And if you have 6 cities, you are getting something like +3 culture and +3 science on top of like +9 gold or something like that, just for having 3 or 4 specialty districts in your capital, which is great. And it just encourages, again, being thoughtful with your city planning, which themes very, very well with the Meiji Restoration bonus. Now, on the topic of discussing leader abilities, I want to get back to talking about negative bonuses because they started doing this with Gathering Storm, and they've really, I think, gone in full force back with the Great Commanders because they only did it with Abe and his plantations. It was a very light debuff for the Great Negotiators, I think, but in terms of it actually having an effect in the Great Commanders pack, there has been more of a substantial, I would say, emphasis on debuffing certain playstyles. Tokugawa is discouraged from trading with other civs. He gets a flat-out debuff to his trade routes. Nader Shah has Sword of Persia, and you can only get the trade route bonus in cities that you have conquered yourself, not cities that are already founded, so you're going to want to go for a blitzkrieg strategy in the ancient era to maximize that. And then finally, Suleiman has quite a big loss because he no longer has Ibrahim or the Janissaries, so he needs to be very, very careful in terms of calculating his golden ages depending on his buffs and debuffs, and then going forward with being, I think, more militarily strategic because he does not have the cushioning that Ibrahim offers with his cheaper military units, nor does he have the amazing Janissaries, which are a better upgrade to the musketmen. I do want to take a layer off of Nader Shah's massive head because while he is the Drip King, undisputably, he has one of the best leader models in the game, and that is by a long shot. No one else compares to him. Yet his leader ability, Sword of Persia, is finicky. I think the +5 combat strength against healthy units is interesting. It's a unique interpretation of, I think, what the Maya had with their unique units, and they do additional damage to injured units. It's a cool take on that. And the additional faith and gold scale very poorly when you put him up against Cyrus, who has a great +2 movement speed throughout any era when he declares a surprise war, which is fantastic, and that lasts for 10 turns. So while Cyrus has a more basic ability and it doesn't have as many conditions on it to make it more flavorful and unique, it is a lot, I think, easier to use and manage compared to Nader Shah's trading scheme that he has with his conquered cities. Now, while I may have been a bit hard on the last two leaders, Shah and Suleiman, I still think they have a great time. They're by no means weak leaders, and I do like how they manage and synergize much better than what we had with the Great Negotiators pack. I just think these leaders further enhance than take away, even with their debuffs, to the Civ's already pre-existing playset. For example, take the Paridesa and their already good culture and gold generation with city planning. You are building on top of that with Nader Shah's trade routes. With the Ottoman Empire, you have a siege background, and it's very good for conquering cities. You add the bonus damage that the Ottomans receive out of the gate with their Magnificent Suleiman bonus as a leader, and then that further compounds things, and you're getting like +9 damage from the ancient era if you do your strategies and laying out your units correctly to those early cities, which means conquering is a breeze, and that sets you up for a great late game. Even Tokugawa, while trade routes don't necessarily theme too well with Japan's base game kit, his other abilities help to generate culture science, which is already something that Japan does very well, and it really helps catapult them into a massive science or tourism victory later on as the eras progress. You've probably already guessed it, but yes, I really love the Great Commanders. I think that the theming is pretty poor, but I'm not going to expect too much out of the future packs depending on what they're called, like the Great Builders. We might have a few Conquerors, who knows? But I do like the theming. I think they are appropriate, and I'm glad that the Civ developers, or Firaxis as it is not scared to further flesh out Civs and take interesting strategies, to say the least, in terms of trying out new play styles and adding more flavor and historical accuracy to the different leaders and their play sets. If you like this video, I also offer other videos on the individual leaders breaking down the most optimal playstyles for them. You can check that out by checking out the top right-hand corner link or checking out the new leaders playlist. But with that, I will bid you adieu and au revoir as I depart for the next leader pass and start preparing for the different links that will probably come eventually. But if you want to stay up to date with that, also please consider subscribing and leaving a like. But this has been 4 Extraordinaire. Love you guys, and I hope to see you guys later. All right, peace.